Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are watching us from. I am Comfort Eyitayo, your regular host on Connect with Comfort show. On this program, we aim to add value to people and business enterprise as well as their personal growth. Each show is organized to feature guests who are subject matter experts that helps us to share insights on the topic of the day. I'm glad you are able to join us today. You are most welcome. Our inspiring session today is on the theme Ordinary Ideas to Extraordinary Ventures. I'll take that again, Ordinary Ideas to Extraordinary Ventures. At the heart of every great enterprise lies an idea which may be often simple, sometimes overlooked, but always powered by vision, courage, and execution. What makes the difference between an ordinary idea and extraordinary venture is not just creativity, but the determination to nurture that into something meaningful, sustainable, and impactful. History is replete with examples from the garage startups that became global tech giants to the local innovations that transformed communities and livelihoods. These stories remind us that innovation does not always begin with brilliance. It often begins with belief that a small solution can solve a big problem. Believe that what seems insignificant today can shape the future tomorrow. So, as we engage in today's discussion, let us open our minds to possibilities. Let us challenge ourselves to see opportunities where others see obstacles. And above all, let us remember that every extraordinary venture begins with someone who dared to act on an ordinary idea. Once again, I welcome you warmly to this session. May the insights shared here ignite new dreams, bold ventures, and transformative impact in each of us. You are most welcome once again. We'll be going into all this in detail with our guest who is already in the house after this time out. Please remain connected. We'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, we'll just go straight to introducing our guest. And it gives me great pleasure, as usual, to introduce one of the pillars of this show once again as our special guest for today. And he's no other than Rotimi Eyitayo. Rotimi Eyitayo is a distinguished business consulting authority recognized for delivering strategic, transformative business consulting services that propel organizations to unparalleled heights. As a trusted advisor to global enterprise, he specializes in providing innovative solutions and sustainable growth strategies. He is renowned as a growth management expert. Mr. Eyitayo excels in orchestrating and implementing growth strategies that drive profound organizational transformation. With a proven track record of maximizing business potential, navigating complexities, and fostering enduring success, Rotimi is a facilitation master with a unique ability to engage and inspire diverse audiences. His expertise extends to being an invited speaker at high-profile conferences, retreats, and workshops, delivering impactful and memorable presentations both within and outside Nigeria. Mr. Eyitayo is a sought-after keynote speaker focusing on topics such as business innovation, leadership growth, institutional reforms and transformation, culture change, and the attainment of smart and safe cities. Known for his dynamic and captivating speaking style, he leaves a lasting impression on audiences worldwide, drawing from his extensive experience as a speaker at conferences and retreats in Nigeria and across the globe. Currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer of Team Masters Limited, Mr. Eyitayo plays a pivotal role in transforming individuals, businesses, and institutions. Additionally, he has championed interventions within agencies, ministries, state governments, and commissions. So for further insight, because there's so much to say about him, but for time, I will say for further insights and updates, you can follow him on his LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as his Instagram at Rotimi Eyitayo. So please join me in making welcome our special guest for today, Mr. Rotimi Eyitayo. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Good evening. Thank you for your continuous support for this show and being one of the pillars of the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll go straight to the interview segment by making our audience to understand the concept through this question. What defines an ordinary idea in the context of entrepreneurship, and what transforms it into an extraordinary venture?
Thank you very much. An ordinary idea can be explained as unapplied insights, insights that brands or individuals might have that are yet to be applied. So, as long as those insights are not applied, we can consider them as ordinary. And then, what makes extraordinary ideas, what makes ideas get into extraordinary ventures as well, would be three things. I like to put it this way. Number one is execution. Execution is the first thing that makes something that is ordinary, that is in an idea mode, to become meaningful and extraordinary. That's execution, courage, and ultimately consistency. So if anyone out there is looking at how to translate or transition, those three elements must be present. That's the courage, the execution, and consistency.
That's very correct and important, especially, in fact, there's no one that you can actually wish away. If you do not execute your idea, it remains like what you call embryo. It's not seeing life. So bringing it out needs execution and the courage to believe in yourself, to believe in your dream, to believe in your vision that pushes the execution. And most importantly, the consistency. Because if you are not consistent, you just fizzle out quickly. So consistency. So those three elements are things that we should actually uh, keep in mind to make sure that we have an extraordinary venture from our ordinary idea. Thank you very much for that beautiful response.
You're welcome.
Uh, my next question is: are extraordinary ventures born from brilliant innovation or from exceptional execution of simple ideas like you have defined?
Yes, so I would say the latter makes it extraordinary. We've seen many times how people have been able to turn the simplest of ideas into something dynamic. And it's the strength of their pursuit, the strength of their execution, and the quality of the responsiveness while they execute. So, speed and execution qualifies that to be extraordinary.
The speed, very interesting. Viewers, please note all these keywords because they are the one that resonates to what we call extraordinary ventures. So can every ordinary idea become extraordinary, or are there inherent limits to what idea can achieve, even given all this quality of speed, execution, and consistency?
Yes, that's a very good question. Sometimes ideas are the mercy of some factors. One of the factors that most times actually affects the quality of an idea or the possibility of an idea becoming extraordinary is the kind of market space which we would like to call environment. There are certain ideas that will thrive because it fits into the social reality of that environment. Sometimes culture tends to shape acceptance of certain interventions, insights, and ideas. So when people begin to look at execution, they must be mindful of the environment, what is the social reality, what's the culture that is prevalent on such an idea. Many years ago, there was a conversation among some entrepreneurs where some people were giving consideration why a brand like McDonald's is not in Nigeria. And one of the answers that was very, very insightful was that it probably is not because they are not aware of the numbers, but they probably were looking at the factor of culture. McDonald's heavily um, has a breakfast culture, and most of the kind of meals that they have that is a signature meal to them might not necessarily be our own type. We can see, for example, when KFC came into Nigeria, at some point in time, KFC went a little bit lower on the Zinger burger and stressed the jollof rice pack meal, which is just to tell you that if the market refuses you because of culture, regardless of your speed of execution, regardless of your courage and tenacity, you might not get that break even or even that breakthrough. So sometimes these factors are meant to be considered.
Fantastic. The culture, the environment has a large part to play in our ideas and our ventures becoming extraordinary. So we cannot just have the best and all fit all kind of ideas or venture in every place, because it can work in some places, it may not work in another. Thank you very much for that great insight. Let's go inspirational now or motivational. What mindset separates an entrepreneur who sees opportunity in ordinary things from those who overlook them? What kind of mindset?
That's interesting. So the kind of mindset that makes people see beyond others and see extraordinary in others, it's a mindset I would sometimes christen as an abundance mindset, a mindset that seeks to explore beyond the surface, a mindset that has no form of limitation or interruption in mind. Many times people who are fearful or people who are less aware of the environment tend to just limit themselves to the interpretation of what they see on the surface. But many entrepreneurs who have been able to break into an abundance mindset will always feel there's always much more, either at the base of something or in front of something or at the end of something. So you always find that their narratives always align with their philosophy, and they have that philosophy that there is much more ahead and much more that is possible.
That's good. The key word for me in this is the abundance mindset, which I can also translate as a possibility mindset. There are some people that do not believe there's something that is impossible, and that makes you uh, to really venture out. Thank you very much. How important is curiosity and problem solving in identifying opportunities hidden in everyday life?
Thank you. So when we look at curiosity helps everyone to be able to, put questions to the base of things as opposed to just repel or reject. A curious mind always gets closer to answers because with curiosity, you begin to ask questions. With curiosity, you begin to get to the position of the willingness to try. If you're not curious about something, you're not ready to try. Curiosity embraces risk, although there's a popular saying that curiosity kills the cat. But there's also another saying that cats have 9 lives. So it's possible that the curiosity met the ninth attempt of the cat. And so I think that people must understand that the principles behind getting more will require us to begin to, bother more. And it's curiosity that actually makes people stumble on inventions. Why can't so happen? I'm sure people that thought about powering a generator was that if there is no public power, why can't there be a private power generation? I'm sure curiosity was what led to people asking that, okay, what if, for example, your tire goes off and you're driving, shouldn't there be a spare? And I'm sure it's curiosity that made there to be a concept of a spare tire. Curiosity probably would have made people think about it that, okay, what happens if there's an earthquake? And then you now begin to see people creating, survival bunkers within the house. Once there's a tremor to a particular level, the bunker just closes up on the people inside and they have food supplies for at least 30 days so that if they're going to get them off the rubbles, they're able to survive. So curiosity causes us to begin to look at things with a second look, with a third eye, with the hope of creating something that enables, something that improves, or something that transforms the lives of the people involved in that thing. So curiosity and critical thinking is a major ingredient towards having extraordinary outcomes.
Thank you very much. So we've gotten another dimension to the common adage curiosity kills the cat. So it's at the ninth life of the cat that that curiosity kills the cat. So not at the trying. So you have up to clear 8 parts, but I believe you would have made success before that. Okay, we've talked about execution. one of the catalysts for spurring our ideas to extraordinary ventures. So let's look at the process and execution. What are the key steps in developing an ordinary idea into a viable business model?
Thank you very much. Some of the key steps in looking at an idea into a viable model is to also begin to ideate the concept first by asking what is the problem that this idea is solving. Um, so some people will call it putting the five whys. So why this idea? Oh, this idea is solving this problem. Okay, what's the gap that exists? What's the target audience? What is the promise of value? By the time we begin to put steps to answering this question, we begin to find a bit of clarity, we begin to find value begin to emerge. So when we begin to ask ourselves, so what's the size of this market? Okay, is it a masculine market? Is it a feminine market? Is it the market for professionals? Is it the market for general people? Is it a professional market? And then what's the positioning that we want to have in that market? Are we positioning to be a premium solution, or to be a general solution, or to be an alternative solution to the premium solution available? So these few steps begin to make us find a precise way of executing. In advanced terrain, we begin to ask people to create what you call a business model canvas. In a business model canvas, there are 9 critical elements, right? And in those elements, you're thinking about it and you're saying that, okay, first and foremost, you want to ask yourself, who is my customer? Who is my customer? And when people begin to ask themselves, who are their customers, um, they begin to realize what the direction of what the product or whatever it is that they are doing is all about. So when you have who your customer is, then you are able to now begin to look at after customer segmentation, which sometimes I used to advise people that you don't have to be restricted on how you put it. But then you can now say, okay, now that I know my customer, what's the value that I'm giving to those customers? Then when you have identified it, another way to now ask yourself is, what's the channel I'm going to deliver the value from? Am I going through website, mobile apps, physical store? Is it going to be social media? Am I using agents? That now begins to make people see better. Then what's the customer relationship like? Is it going to require personalized service? Is it going to be self-service? Is it going to be automation? Then what are the revenue streams? Sometimes there are solutions that we've come to see that their sales is driven by subscription. Some people, their revenue stream is driven by commission. It's sometimes by partnerships. Then what key resources involved? So you start looking at, are there need for technology, staffing, vehicles, brand reputation? Do you need capital? And then what are the partnerships and collaborations that will help the business come up? Some people need vendor agencies or banks, technology providers. Then the cost structure, is the cost structure going to involve certain overheads like rent, salaries, marketing, logistic costs? So all those things help identify the business model as it were. I was speaking to someone recently and was sharing a business model of a logistic business with me. And he was saying that naturally they had built an app, which was the technology. But because of the customer segmentation, they found out that most of the customers reach them via WhatsApp. So the app that they had invested millions in was not really being used. And eventually, WhatsApp now took the order of the day. So they want to get any order, it's via WhatsApp. They get response to the customer, is via WhatsApp. So that automatically kind of helped them to change their approach of where they should invest more in. So these are things that helps people to create a viable business model after they've been able to conceive an idea.
Thank you very much. So I believe this tie in nicely with my next question that ask, how can entrepreneurs balance creativity with practicality in the early stages of venture creation. Because what you have just said about spending millions in developing specific app that is not actually giving much value, if at all, when maybe the relatively free uh, device of WhatsApp is going to serve their purpose. So that is practicality versus creativity. So
Yeah.
how do you answer that?
So just to add to that, one would need to make sure that no matter how lovely the idea and creativity process is like, it would be nice to break them into modules. So modular execution can also help balance things. So a lot of times you find that people sometimes release a tester version or they release a phase one of what they want to do, and then they tear it up to another execution level where they are now saying, oh, now they're releasing a full version, and then they're now releasing a higher version or a better version. So that just helps people sometimes get to realize what they need to do to be able to balance things, so they are not all together putting all their eggs, so to speak, in one basket and risking losing it all. But this time around, they're balancing it out by a phased model of execution, so that sometimes at the point of trying this out, even with the creativity in mind, there might be need to tweak some things based on market response, based on customer feedback, or sometimes based on operational excellence or operational process. So those few things can now make you now consolidate your idea at the end of the day.
Fantastic. It's a means of trying to see what works better for the organization or for the business. So in this situation, do research, testing, and feedback play in transforming raw ideas into successful venture?
Absolutely, yes. Research, surveys, through blind audits, blind surveys, questionnaires. These are samplings to just be able to get local intelligence and data to support or corroborate some of those things. It also mitigates loss of investment in some cases. So products are being released eventually after people have sampled the market. So yes, it does work.
Very good. So those are tips for us business people, so that before plunging 100% into it and risking a lot of cost, you can go via that option of testing, making some research, getting feedback from customers to know which is the best direction to go. Thank you very much for that. So how does resilience, or the ability to iterate after failure, contribute to making an idea extraordinary?
Well, as the word resilience stands for, a lot of times, it also shows that when the going gets tough, the tough has to get going. Sometimes the market tends to reward persistence, resilience, and longevity. So there's some people who've experienced a big time surge and growth just because the market found them worthy to have passed the test of time. So a lot of times beyond the idea and the concept, there must be the readiness to sometimes wait it out if it's something that we believe in, if it's something that has value, and if something that will really make sense at the end of the day. Sometimes products grow on the market, on people, and sometimes it might require a bit of culture creation or culture shaping before the entire response becomes as positive as expected. So entrepreneurs must be ready to do that. Wait on that kind of curve to ensure that their resilience pays off at the end of the day. So that's what I feel.
Okay, that is quite good. We can look at it now from the point of strategy and growth. How can entrepreneurs scale an ordinary idea without losing its core value or purpose in terms of
So
scalability now?
in terms of scaling, without losing value, sometimes
Core. Mm.
it might require that there is a bit of cross-selling or upselling, meaning that the idea or the offer is still intact, but it's now at a level that is either exclusive, it's at a level with more add-ons, it's at a level with spot-on offers. So at such point, people begin to realize that it's still the same thing. It's just that, oh, there's now something much more. Let's use the categorization of an airplane, for example. So you are going in a flight from Lagos to London, and there is the offer for the economy ticket, but at the same time, there's the business class, there's the first class. So, you know, a business class, a first class is some form of cross selling. You're getting to the same destination, but in a different way with a different experience. Now, upselling might now be that, you can be a member of the Business World Club or the business club, which is also giving you access to airport lounge across several locations. And what that means is this, that the customer begins to see that these same people are selling hospitality in the air, but they have now extended the value to the customer. So in that way, that is scaling in terms of revenue, scaling in terms of reach, scaling in terms of depth of service, but they are not changing quality, neither even are they diversifying away from their industry. So that's an idea where people now begin to see that we can scale without necessarily losing essence, quality, or even shifting from who we are and what we represent. And sometimes it might be from a point of forward integration, or sometimes it can be from a point of backward integration, where we begin to scale the scope of service and the reach is now extensive, is now better, is now higher. We can look at many products that are around there. So we find out that sometimes people have like the sausage out there, Gala is a popular sausage brand, but they have the cocktail version. And the cocktail version is for those who go for picnic. It's still Gala, it's just more quantity in a smaller size. So it serves a different purpose and it's a scaling of some sort, you know. So these are few ideas that people can explore to make sure that they grow bigger, they grow better, they have a better reach and without necessarily changing essence.
Thank you very much for that response, especially the example of the airline. Within the same airline, like you said, you all get there, but with different travel experience. Even within economy itself, you have, they will call one flexi economy, they will call another type of economy, maybe what Yoruba will call marose, kind of ticket that you cannot change or do anything. But if you are lucky, everything works out well, gets you there intact, and you arrive there in the same economy, but you paid less. And what that does to the business is that for those who are not, or maybe those who would have opt out totally from that particular airline, there is still a bit of accommodation for them to accommodate those prices, and that increases the reach. So I think that model, or the strategy, can also be adopted for any type of business. There are ways you can cater for maybe the people that ordinarily would not have patronized you if you have stuck to your rigid line of business. It's still the same thing, but you'll be getting a deeper reach. Thank you very much for that example. So, what
Yeah.
are the major obstacles that often prevent ordinary ideas from becoming extraordinary ventures?
Okay. One of the obstacle is fear. Um, and fear comes in different colors, but it's most times what it is, fear. Fear becomes obstacle because there are some ideas that require full expression. but we find out that people have limited the ideas, reduced the idea to the level of their bandwidth. And so the idea doesn't come with its prospect, it doesn't come with its effect. And sometimes in business, there are certain things, if you don't do it to a point of 100% or even 90%, it might not give you that kind of result you're looking for. It's not the kind of 50-50 kind of thing you do. So this sometimes is obstacle. And there are times that some ideas need a lot of input. And so some obstacle could be absence of collaboration or absence of support structure or partnership, or some people call it alliances. It's also there are times that a business idea, a product, or a venture would need to rest on a framework of alliances. Alliances that will now push it to the right point, right quarter, right platform, give it the necessary currency to be viral enough or to even be embraced by all. So these things sometimes are things that serve as also, so obstacles, they come in different shapes and different. Sometimes it could just be sometimes the positioning of that brand and idea, and that becomes obstacle to them. I normally tell people that a business or a product positioning can actually eventually make or mar that product. A product that is positioned as something too rich to the poor is not going to be accepted by the poor. If it's positioned to be too cheap to the rich, it's not going to be accepted by the rich. And so positioning in itself is something that if one doesn't get right, it can eventually become an obstacle to extraordinary ideas. So we've seen where people have done great stuff, they've done their idea, they've done their own work, but just because of how they brought out the execution, it became an idea ahead of its time, and then they found out that that became an obstacle. Sometimes not even announcing and launching it is a problem too. So obstacles are many, but these are few that sometimes often appears to be in the way of execution.
Interesting. So those are things we should watch out for so that our ideas are not stunted growth wise. So how can technology and digital tools accelerate the transformation process?
Yes, technology is also considered as an enabler, as an accelerator as well. Technology helps to enhance and fast track a lot of processes that could have been mechanical or manual in nature. So think about data collection, think about what a Google form would do as opposed to somebody trying to manually key in entries. Think about some of the applications out there that can help you to be able to reach out and mobilize audience. Think about if you had to make phone calls to 50 people, an email would have gone out as a bulk email marketing in matter of minutes. You are spending less in some cases, you are achieving more, you are getting to reach farther than your immediate environment. So these are things that technology does. So technology, whichever technology we research that fits into the purpose of what we do, would really help accelerate what it is that a project or a product is into, and it would eventually boost the flavor and the effect and the impact of it in the short term and also in the long term.
Very right. Everybody knows that any aspect of our life, technology has a huge role to play. There's no running from it. You just have to abide, otherwise you'll be left on the platform. So any business strategy that we are forming or ideas, we must look at how we can use technology to enhance the success of such business. How important is timing of entry? Because when you were responding to the last question but one, you said an idea that came before its time. So how important is timing of entry the market at the right moment in determining whether an idea succeeds or fails?
Timing is everything. It's important. If there's any word, It's very important. That's the truth about it, because sometimes the determinant of success, especially when it comes to product, is hinged on time, and it can actually make a mess of your strategy. Sometimes we find out that people enter too early, sometimes people enter too late. There's something in business called first move advantage, and that's what time does. When people are able to have first move advantage, it puts them on a competitive edge. Then the market readiness and willingness to accept your solution. You must be able to identify that this is something that the market is ready to embrace. you know um and we can see that sometimes in our social reality. You see all those, and just as you have first move advantage, I've seen businesses and sectors and industries where after first move, there's also something called the smart move advantage, where somebody now goes, to take on a chunk of market size just because they created a smart move. Case in point, when MTN was in Nigeria many years ago, there was a demand on MTN to try to do per second billing, and they said it's not possible. But then they had the first move advantage. They had a widespread. In fact, their market slogan was "Everywhere you go." But when Globalcom came into the scene, Globalcom started per second billing, and immediately MTN was moved and forced to go into per second billing, which simply tells us that while there's first move advantage, but there's also smart move or smart mover advantage. And if there's a smart move advantage, then there's also what you call a sustain advantage, which means that sometimes it's not enough to just start out something. It's sometimes the one who can weather it out, stay it out, staying power. So some products and businesses don't have staying power. They are like a flash. They come and then they go. But there are some who have been able to stay all through, and they are like a marketing slogan of a particular financial institution that says big, strong, and reliable. They are able to say that their own strategy will be longevity, and they act as a pillar in the market space. But when a brand can bring all these three things together, they begin to leverage time. They begin to look at how the economy or the political climate or the policy climate is going to favor them. Sometimes I remember I had a consulting intervention with a client, and somehow, because they had a delay in their shipping into the country, clearing their product, and their market campaign activation, it coincided with a fasting period. Unknown to them, they just discovered that by the time they were trying to make market push, it was fasting period. And for 30 days, and even a bit beyond the 30 days, there was no market. It affected them dollar wise, it affected them sales wise, it affected them. In fact, they had to do much more that they would have done in a quarter just within a month. And that's why, because timing, if you want to do something for December, you probably want to have gotten yourself positioned for at October, or else bringing it in December, you've lost the market already.
Very true. Very, very true. I think it's a point to note. So let's look at this topic in line of people and partnership. To what extent do networks, mentors, or collaborations influence the journey from idea to venture?
Yes. Um, when we have ideas, I like to say that it's the idea of an idea. But by the time moving parts begin to move and then people begin to come together, some partnerships create a different form or format for that idea. And so, probably where initial consideration was to go in a particular direction, the partnership can actually now open it more and open it up to a bigger version of that thing in itself. So, partnership and mentorship tends to make something sizable, tends to make it sometimes global. You have partners who come on board and you are answering the fact that why do you want your penetration to just be statewide? Why not nationwide? Some partners can come, in fact, it become transnational for you. And that's just the ability. And the partnerships and collaborations can come through agencies. We've seen situations, even technology platforms that have opened up people in terms of their approach to selling. You have platforms like Seller, you have platforms like Paystack, you have all these people who have raised up solutions that are now giving you a reason to say, why not play on a global stage? Right? So the excuses of doing things small is shrinking by the day. It's only for people to just leverage or begin to think of possibilities beyond their normal small size of space. And then they begin to see that the world is really at their feet to conquer. So partnerships, mentorships, collaboration, they play a huge role, not just in success, but also in significance, in size, and in scale of any possible idea. And that's what venture really is all about. And like they say, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Nothing gained. Fantastic. Okay, we're talking of partnership. How can an entrepreneur attract the right partners, investors, or team members to support an evolving idea?
So currently today, there are different ways. Some people sometimes come out clearly and just call for partners. They come out clearly and then they send or share their pitch. They call it pitch deck. Sometimes some people apply to certain maybe programs, accelerator programs, apply to certain kind of people and seek partners. They might have profiled them and say, oh, this person aligns with our plan, our vision, our goal. Sometimes it can just be by you announcing your next move or announcing your impact story. Some people share their impact reports online, and people that read it will now say, I like to be a part of this pursuit. I like to be a part of this project. And then they reach out to them. Some people do it via proposal, some people do it via open house. They just invite stakeholders, arrowheads, influencers, and then they just invite them to an open house and say, this is who we are, this is what we are about, this is what we're about to do, this is what we've done, this is what we're looking at. And then they share how people can be a part of it. So there are many ways you can attract support sponsors, partners, and the likes. Sometimes it could be even sometimes from crowdfunding. It could just be a story and you push it out there. It could just be a bold move, call for help. The world is so dynamic that we've seen people say, you know what, I want to conquer this territory and I'm looking for 10 audacious companies who would like to go on this journey with me. And you just find out that people start saying, I'm in, without any form of proper whatever. And then they take it up and then they start the pre-qualification process.
Thank you very much. Because of time, let's take just one more question. How do we inspire a new excuse me, a new generation to believe that ordinary ideas, even from the humble beginning, can change the world?
Well, I think one of the ways to inspire people is to make them realize that great things start small. And you can't know how far something will go if you do not allow it to start or if you don't allow it to thrive. And so we should not look at the size of the beginning or the size of the idea. What we should look at is the size of execution or the size of courage or the depth of consistency we're bringing on board. A lot of times I've seen entrepreneurs bring systems, soul, structure to something very small, and that thing just becomes super big overnight. Why? Because they brought the right system, they infused the right soul, and of course, they gave it the right support. So if people out there, no matter how small their ideas are, just like the Bible says, if you have faith like a mustard seed, it will move mountains.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What will be your parting shot in just 1 minute on this
So my parting shot
important
would
topic?
be that we must all begin to move beyond ordinary, add the extra to our ordinary, find the extra to our ordinary, and make them become ventures. Venture out, go on an adventure to do something bigger than you ever done, and watch it grow, watch it bloom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those great insights. While we were discussing, we had some people join us. We had Taiwo Joe from Abuja, of our regular joining us. We had Doris Chinedu Okoro streaming from Enugu join us, and a couple of others. Perhaps if I have not gotten your name, please forgive me. That joined us. We appreciate you joining us. We hope you have learned something from today's episode. We have been the insight that have been shared as giving the clear path for us to turn idea to great venture to extraordinary venture. So we should look at our vision, validate it by testing and doing the market research and all that. Look at the value proposition as well and the viability. That is very important. Mindset also is very important. We must be able to think big and then also follow the thinking in a way that will achieve what we are planning. Embrace risk taking, although calculated one, and we learn also by doing. Failure should not be taken as just ordinary failure. It's a feedback on its own, not finality. And also the scalability of our businesses is very important because it has great impact. So many things that our guest has shared with us today. We want to appreciate our special guest for today's topic for sharing great insights on this important topic. Please let us consider all these great points that has been raised and apply it in our businesses so that it can help us to grow, turn our ordinary ideas into extraordinary ventures. Thank you very much, Rotimi, for obliging us with your busy within your busy schedule to share this great insight. We appreciate it, not take it for granted. Thank you very much. So as we draw the curtain on today's session, I believe one truth stands out clear for us. That is, great ventures do not always begin with grand beginning, but with ordinary ideas pursued with extraordinary passion, discipline, and vision. From the discussions we've shared, we've seen that innovation is not the exclusive preserve of genius or the privileged few. Rather, it is the reward of those who dare to see possibilities where others see problems. Every extraordinary venture, whether in business, technology, or social impact, began with someone who believed their simple idea could make a difference and they pursued that idea. So let us therefore leave this conversation with a renewed conviction that everyday experiences, observations, and even frustration sometimes, that is what sometimes we refer to as failure, can become the seed beds of transformation if only we nurture them with courage, creativity, and consistency. Remember, that is where we started from the definition of what makes ordinary idea extraordinary. The execution, the consistency, as well as what's the third one now? Remind me. As well as courage. So these are three ingredients that is very important for us to observe. The future belongs not to those waiting for that perfect condition because it doesn't really exist, but to those who start where they are, no matter how small, with what they have, and who keep improving as they go. So once again, I would like to appreciate all of you that have joined us today, and especially our special guest for the great insights on the session on ordinary ideas to extraordinary ventures. I hope you have all enjoyed today's episode. If so, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Comfort Eyitayo. Once you have subscribed, please turn on the notification button, like and share our videos, stay updated with information about upcoming events, solutions, and offers on my Instagram account at Comfort Eyitayo, as well as my Facebook at Comfort Eyitayo. Till I come your way again, let us commit ourselves to transforming our ordinary ideas into extraordinary ventures, ventures that create value, inspire others, and leave lasting footprints on our world. Thank you very much for joining this session today. Have a great week ahead. God bless you.